Oh. Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is episode 333 of the Runaround, and I'm joined by a friend of mine, a coworker, a friend, Mr. Marshall Fields, from the website pchatp. And I'm going to let Marshall kind of talk about that, but we're going to hang out today, talk with my friend Marshall. So I'm going to unmute him. I'm going to bring him in. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Episode 3 of the podcast with Marshall. There'll be an intro thing here. Hey, Marshall. Hello, my friend.
Hello, Dan. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How about you? How was your work week?
It's good.
Good.
It's ever changing. It's flowing. It's busy, just trying to stay productive. That's the key. I feel like I'm productive and being of use, then it's a win.
Nice. I love it. Well, I've got our chat up, so I'll watch for questions. But you and I, we kind of put together a little bit of an agenda, and I asked some of my viewers for some questions. But before we get to that, since I call this the runaround, we do a little bit of a warm up, my friend. And I'm going to turn the floor over to you, let you kind of talk about, introduce yourself to the gang, how long you've been doing training or podcasting. I want you to kind of take a few minutes, warm everybody up, tell us your story, if you don't mind.
All right, sounds good.
All right.
Well, I would say it's hard to encapsulate your life. People when I'm coming to their stage or are going to be interviewed, they ask you for a bio, and that's always my least favorite part. I could get on the stage and talk to 1,000 people, but then it's like, all right, so tell us about your bio. It's like, oh, crap. But essentially, I started off being in the technical career field, and that was kind of different for me based on the fact that I like to, I'm what you would call an empath, but also an ambivert. So I love my alone time as much as I love being surrounded by a bunch of people and talking and socializing. And going into technical field that I was going into, which was electronic engineering, that's a lot of people trapped in a server with hot pockets and Mountain Dew, and they don't interact with people a lot. Um, but my career evolved pretty quickly because people see things in you that you don't see in yourself, and my ability to connect with people, it got me into the call center back in the day when there was a company called Bell South Mobility. Totally dated myself, but that's fine. And when I went into Bell South Mobility, and I had to move from being an assistant customer care manager to a manager because they were downsizing, that was when I really got exposed to the human condition.
Okay.
What it means to be human, what it means to process things. And that really kicked off my training career. And I've been in training for about 20 years since then, worked at a lot of different companies, a lot of different places all over the nation. But as you go through and you are growing up and becoming who you're going to be, there will be this silver thread, something that connects everything that you've done, everything that is kind of like when you're doing it, it doesn't feel like work. And for me, that is communication.
Okay.
And on a deeper level, it is having emotional intelligence and situational intelligence because so many of our issues are solvable. We have issues that other people are the cure for. Other people hold our solutions. That's why diversity is so important. And it's not just diversity in how people look, it's diversity in how people think, it's diversity in how people feel. And so that
Hmm.
led me down the path of wanting to have a podcast to talk about everyday communication issues. And that's how pchatp was born.
Okay.
And pchatp is the name of my company, Positive Communication Habits and Thought Processes. And from there, I realized that I was focusing on a bruise instead of a broken bone. The broken bone is one of the biggest, most large third rail conversations that anyone could have or talk about, which is talking about racism, 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 racism.
Mm. Yes.
People run from that topic. And as a society and as a culture that's had many things that get in the way of how we're able to communicate and connect,
Hmm.
our communication is more important now than ever. We could talk about polarity, and the divisiveness within the political arena. We could talk about, um, societal issues. collective traumas that have been carried over from generation to generation. We could talk about the intersectionality of what it means to be in a global economy and the access and evolution of information. We could talk about AI. That's fine and dandy, but when it comes down to it, no matter
Mhm.
the device you're using, no matter the technology you're using, it's all to communicate. And if we can elevate those skills, if we had upgraded ourselves as much as we've upgraded our technology, I probably wouldn't have a job and I'd be happy for it. So yeah,
Okay.
I am here for all things communication and just making a better world by individually becoming better communicators as we move forward through workshops, podcasts, online training. That's what I do. That's the party that I play the music at.
Okay, I love it. We one of the things we kind of strive for here is on the channel is to be inclusive. I want everyone to feel welcome. I want everyone to feel like they matter, that their thoughts are valid. So we kind of touch on that and kind of encompass that. But and I've had you on my list to have you on because of your focus on communication and because like you and I look, I've kind of let some of the folks know that you and I talk every Monday. We have an hour and I look forward to it every week because we get to talk about not just life and not just work. It's kind of it's a little bit of everything. And some days like we went down like a movie rabbit hole, I think a couple weeks ago. Like, it's communication wise, it's fun to sit down with you and talk and kind of pick your brain. So I'm thank you first of all for being on the podcast, my baby podcast here. So thank you.
No, it's my pleasure. I love the content that you put out, and I think we're in a day and age where people are starved for authenticity and
Hmm.
realness. I think it's the evolution of the technology that we've had that has allowed us to, script our responses through chat
Hmm.
or through email. And the art of looking someone in the eye
Yes,
and saying how you feel, real time, no filters, that's something that's a dying art.
it is.
But you're authentic, and I appreciate that about you.
Thanks. I try to just be me. Like Kelly says, like you're always you on stream. It's just maybe normally you're like 70% on stream, you're like 90%. And I'm like, I get that. She's like, you're a little more high energy. I'm like, well, I feel like if I'm just like people won't, it's got to be a little presentation to it, I guess. So, but thank you. That means a lot. I like I
Yeah.
said, I we can hit anything on this agenda. By the way, I've got it. Well, you've seen the monitor setup here. I've got six, so there's a plethora. But um, we can dive into topics. How long you've been with the company now? With our company for 6, 7 years now. I feel like.
Um, yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Been working um, with you all for
Okay.
yeah. I'd say it's about seven, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had training with you before. Like there was a time you came up here and taught some of us, and then we were hiding in one of the hotel like conference rooms, and I brought cases of beer in, and our coworker Rick, one of the bosses, was drinking the spicy beer and liked it, and then I ended up crashing out and going home, and you guys all went out that night and had a lot of fun. But uh, the beer also kind of ties this channel together too. Even though I'm not drinking anymore, I've kind of given it up. We're going to get back to brewing and just I like what I like about beer and brewing was the social aspect of it and brewing the beer. People come hang out and then sharing it with friends that want to partake in it. It's also very social as well, and I like that it can bring people together. We've done a few fundraisers. I want to kind of I'm segueing here. We've done some fundraising for different charities through brewing. We did one. There was a brewery in San Antonio called Weathered Souls Brewing, and they did a beer series they put out for breweries called Black is Beautiful, and it was in June of 2020. And they encouraged other breweries to participate and to donate to local charities. And we did a version of the beer. We asked for the recipe first. We could take it to our homebrew shop, and then we for the Chicago Bale. I can't think of the group name now, but it was to help with the Chicago Bale Fund. And it was pretty great that there were over 100 breweries across the country that participated in the fundraiser. That a small I want to say microbrewery down in San Antonio just had a dream. I found them on Instagram, and that's kind of when I started shifting and trying to take on and do more fundraising type things and try to focus on issues and try to work on equity and equality. Like in June, we also have done for different organizations, LGBTQ plus, IA plus organizations, like Trevor Project. We're doing got one coming up next year for free mom hugs and dads. So, but I wanted to ask you, you have a fundraiser coming up, and I'm going to kind of pop this in chat, and we'll include it with the podcast stuff. But I wanted you to kind of talk about Freedom Bridges and the Black Philanthropy Week, if you don't mind.
Oh, sure. It's my pleasure.
Okay.
So, Freedom Bridges is a nonprofit partnership between my company, pchatp, and Bridge the Gap of Lexington. Bridge the Gap of Lexington has been doing a lot of great work for several years in our city.
Okay.
And so it seemed like a natural partnership once I got to know the leaders of that organization for me to share some of my training and some of my training aspects with the folks that they serve. The whole purpose of Freedom Bridges, that partnership, is to take the gaps that have formed in our society because of a lack of communication skills, because of a lack of um, interaction and social skills and things of that nature. We have a lot of animosity that is unnecessary. There are a lot of situations that could be resolved peacefully. There are a lot of neighborhood associations that have a lack of diversity because they are concerned with how they'll interact with people who look, sound, and think differently. It's the same issue in corporate America. Well, if you can develop communication skills and you can develop an awareness that no longer creates a stranger but a friend, an opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
then it can drastically change how a community is able to coexist, and not just coexist but thrive. We have a lot of friends who are strangers right now,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a lot of strangers who are positioned as enemies in our mind because it is more comfortable to keep them there than to invite them in, because of the vulnerability that that requires to be a genuine person and to connect and to actually care. Um, but one positive thing
Mm-hmm.
that's birthed from a dark place in times of stress, like severe stress, like national weather emergencies, or a tragic attack where there's a
Mm-hmm.
bomb or a car crash or something, it never fails. People from any walk of life, when you see that situation, we come together naturally as human beings. Another case where you can see what we're supposed to be like 100% of the time, but you get to see a glimpse of what we could be, is at sporting events.
Mm-hmm.
When you and I are cheering for the same team, it doesn't matter our socioeconomic background, it doesn't matter, any of those things, not even family history. We are rooting for the same team and we
Mm-hmm.
cheer and we have the swell of emotion of pride or of anger or whatever it is in the sporting arenas.
Mm-hmm.
Well, life is a sporting arena. How we treat each other every day, we can learn to get closer to matching that sentiment that we feel when we're in the sporting arena,
Yeah.
or when there's a tragic accident and we all pull together and everybody's trying to get the kid out of the well or lift the car off of some or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm working towards, and that's what Freedom Bridges is about.
Okay.
We use systemic racism as the bedrock and as a challenging topic to develop communication skills that you can take in the workplace, in the community, in your home,
Mm-hmm.
because we have all of these things that we have to contend with, but our communication is a universal conduit for change. And that's what Freedom Bridges is trying to do, is trying to bring that training out into communities. So we have in-person
Nice.
and online training material.
Okay.
And so the fundraiser is to help raise money so that we can pay for those activities, so that we can pay for gift cards, fun things like that, but
Yeah.
also the manual and the instructor's time. I paid for a class completely by myself the first time that we went through, just because I wanted to pilot. I didn't want to go through, hey, will you sponsor this way? I'll pay for it myself. And like $700 later, I realized this isn't really sustainable if I don't raise
Yes.
money. So,
That's yeah. You've got to have funding. Well, if I'll get information from you, but I would like to have that as a running thing in our chat and my streams for a while. If you have a donation link, you can share with me. I would love to
absolutely.
share that with the group, and we'll put that kind of helps cast that net a little longer, a little wider, and kind of help.
Oh, 100%.
We'd love to help. One of the things, I kind of segue into some of the questions we got because we got a really good question. I'm not going to call out the viewer. I know that they're here, but actually they just DM'd it to me and like I send it to you. I'm like, this is like the deepest question we've ever gotten for any like stream guest or like anything. So I want to kind of talk about it, and it's kind of present day. Like you touched on like right now we have some sporting events like Olympics, but we also have politics happening, which we all love, right? It's a great time.
Politics.
It's fun. When like present day, you're hearing and people using the term DEI as a negative, and we're living in a time when the DEI initiatives have been targeted by conservatives, and it's they're using it as a derogatory term. States are starting to restrict and or eliminate or even passing laws against DEI initiatives. What are your goals? What is pchatp doing differently since this has started happening? Have you guys changed anything you've done? I feel like we kind of talked about the fundraiser and the Freedom Bridges is kind of working to help show programs to kind of to work with this. But have you had to modify this, or have you modified it yet to kind of address it? I'm going to take a pause there because there are many more questions here. So let me start. Let's pause there, and if you want to give any feedback on that at all, and then we can kind of dive in further if you want.
Sure. Division, divisiveness.
Mm-hmm.
To really address that, I'm going to have to share a little bit of my spiritual background.
Okay.
So I truly believe that there are bringers of light and there's bringers of darkness.
Okay.
There are forces that want to pull people together in a positive way and celebrate what it means to be alive at any stage, at any race, at any geographic location.
Mm-hmm.
That's why music, laughter, smiles are universal across all of humanity. But there are also negative things, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so these negative things, one of them is divisiveness, keep us apart. Like it is our nature to be communal animals. So
Yeah.
anything that goes against the nature um, is going to have ramifications. And so when we separate ourselves, we cannot realize the full potential of us because we
Mm-hmm.
are connected. Like it or not, they have done the research. Science has advanced to where we can study quantum physics and quantum mechanics to understand that we are all connected down at the base level. So, taking that into mind, things that want to attack us being together, things that want to attack unity, things that want to attack connectedness, they find a way. There will always be some way that rears its ugly head. And the labels, they change. Not too long ago, a practice that had been in place
Mm-hmm.
for years and years and years. And I'll just tell you, it was called critical theory, and it was a approach to social philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
And it focuses on reflecting, assessing, and critiquing society and cultures in order to reveal um, and challenge power structures. And it was established as a school of thought primarily by theoreticians who belonged to the Frankfurt School. The Frankfurt School, also known as Frankfurter Schule, it was a school of social theory and critical philosophy.
Okay.
Now, these sociological and philosophical studies, they have been taught and studied for years, and it had been used in business management, change management, organizational, and political psychology for years.
Okay.
Nobody had a problem. It was respected, utilized, repeated, cited, papers were written about it. And then someone had the audacity to say race could be part of critical theory. So then they called it critical
Race
race
theory.
theory.
Right.
So now, because that happened and when that label came about, it was meant with positive intention, to take a look back at history and how it unfolded and how race came about, how the construct and racism and enslavement and empowerment, like all of these things.
Hmm.
Well, when that happened, the powers of divisiveness used it, even though critical theory had been around for years and years and years. We're talking about back in the days of Freud,
Okay.
used it as a negative. So you can take anything and use it as a negative. You could take higher levels of consciousness to where you consider perspectives and viewpoints and beliefs and lived experiences on your own. You could call that an awakening of mind. And instead of saying awakening, we said woke.
Well,
And you could
yeah.
literally take having a higher level of consciousness and spin that to be a negative. So in our mind and in our, you know, goal, our odyssey, our quest to become elevated and to reach the highest level of being sentient, which is kindness, but our highest level of our
Hmm.
self-actualization as a culture, as a society, and as an individual,
Hmm.
we're trying to go to the stars, to the moon, to Saturn. We're trying to go to the deepest levels of the ocean. We're trying to explore everything to become as much as we can be. But in here, like in here and
Right.
in here,
Yeah.
that is, there's, what do they say on Star Trek? Um, to boldly go where no
Yep.
one has gone before. Well,
Yep.
anything that starts approaching that and people become uncomfortable because it requires looking in here where there might be some change required, we will label it and then we will try to spin that label into a negative. And so, as things have been progressing, and just to answer your question, because I didn't forget, but it's kind of, I had to build up to it,
That's fair.
I haven't changed a damn thing. And I'm
Okay.
not going to, because the reality is, whether they're attacking woke, whether they're attacking critical race theory, whether they're attacking separate but equal, and then, all of the different things that have happened throughout, it doesn't matter what is being attacked. The truth has no expiration date, and so the methods, the procedures, the being open and understanding, exposing people to different ways of thinking and seeing the world, you can't change that because we still all come from different backgrounds. Even if we are the same race, we could have a different ethnic identity, a different culture. We could see the world differently.
Hmm.
We live in a world where I could go to parts of Compton, Chi-Town, New York, and there could be a white person who walks up and they start talking in a particular dialect or vernacular. And then I start talking and I speak, and they say, "Man, this white guy sounds more black than you do, Marshall." That's the world that we live in,
Hmm.
okay? That's the perception that we live within.
Hmm.
So we have to continue to do the work. Even if people don't want to be exposed to different ways of thinking, we have to make that information available to the point where we'll start to social proof in a positive way. And social proofing is just when you see something happen in society and you look around at everyone's reaction to see what you should do.
Hmm.
It's kind of like the flock mentality, right? There's a loud bang. They've done these experiments. I love them. There's a loud bang. They'll have like 50 actors,
Hmm.
and there'll be someone walking down the street, and then these 50 actors will just run toward this person, and the person 9 times out of 10 will instinctively start running,
Yeah.
and because they're like, I don't know what's going on, but everybody's running, so I should run.
Hmm.
Well, we need to create a cultural shift, the way we look at society, to the point where, and it happens often, but to
Hmm.
the point where we hear discrimination, we hear the beginnings, like the very bottom, like just that little slur or that microaggression
Hmm.
or that treatment that indicates you view that person as less than another human being. We need to get to the point where we can change our culture to where we social proof, and we deal with that on an individual basis automatically instead of going along to get along. And when we have that level of diversity and it's become programmed and accepted,
Hmm.
the type of society that we'll have will be the opposite of dystopian. It will be reaching to the highest levels that we can, but we've got to stop dividing, and we've got to start uniting.
I couldn't agree more. We're educating both kids. The oldest can now vote. This will be her first election, and V came out as well, you and I have talked. V came out as agender and is very tuned in to actually paying attention and listening, but which has gotten our youngest interested and following along and actually watching the news. The oldest one is kind of watching. The oldest one's getting news and clips from TikTok, but at least is taking it in some, like, clips and things. So we're trying to work with Vert to be open minded. And we've tried to be like a safe and inclusive household. We have, you know, we do what we can, but we can do more. One of the things I've talked to the kids about is wanting. I volunteered in I think 2008 and went to Ohio and went door knocking. And it's hard trying to change minds, but it's also you also want to try to get people involved because one of the most important things that we want is for people to vote. And the divisiveness I find just it's very demoralizing. And it's like you see like the people making the clips and you have to try to take a stand. Like my latest tactic isn't the greatest, and I promised Kelly I would stop because I've been just poking fun at those that are supportive of that one candidate, and I've been poking fun and making videos, and that's not going to help change hearts and open minds. That's all I'm doing is playing into that divisiveness and for Kelly to give me that real talk, I'm like, you know what? While it may be funny for a minute, you're right. That's not. It's hard because I feel like if we often in this country, I feel like you have the far left and the far right, or you have the loudest members on either side, just trying to one up each other on whatever news network it might be, and that's they're just trying to get a soundbite. And I think if we could take 100 people from across the country, 500 people from across the country, I feel like if we just sat down and talked, might be able to find some common ground on some of these issues. But part of the problem is, again, you just have the loudest people shouting for sound bites, trying to, it's sensationalism. I feel like the news networks have kind of become sensationalist a little bit, and they just want to, they're all fighting for ratings, which sucks, but I lost my point
Well,
there.
um, well, I mean, I kind of see a thread that I can follow, which
Okay.
is the way in which we relate to one another when
Hmm.
you say something that differs from what I think or believe. It's my opportunity to explore that or to shut it down. And typically, because of things that I might have went through or been exposed to, I might
Hmm.
want to shut it down because it scares me to think differently or to see the world differently. The people that I associate with at home or in the workplace or at church, they have very strong viewpoints, whether it's based on spirituality or religion. And so when these things conflict,
Hmm.
we being beings that often try to simplify things so we can make decisions quickly, right? And so we can survive a circumstance.
Yeah.
We like to be binary. We like to think up or down. Like to think left or right, good or bad, black or white, right or wrong.
Right.
And when you apply that thought to a movie
Hmm.
or a hamburger or clothing or shoes, it's probably okay. But when you apply that to human beings, you generalize and diminish all there is within that person's viewpoint. That's why when people are not open to communicating, I
Hmm.
don't take it personal because of their personal journey, they have developed a mindset that has said it's okay to think that way because nobody's out there thinking stuff and they're like, oh, I shouldn't think that way. No, they think that way because they view that as correct.
Hmm.
And the more we try to change minds, the harder it can be. So I try to change perspective because the brain is the receiver for
Hmm.
information.
Yeah.
Where your eyes and where your heart tells you to look decides what information you're going to take in. So
Okay.
if you want to believe that you are correct and your
Mm-hmm.
viewpoints are right, then you will look at things that validate that. And when something doesn't validate that, then you consider it attack. You're attacking what I believe. You're attacking what I could just be existing, and my sheer existence contradicts or conflicts with something that you believe and see. And so now you deem me as an enemy. But that's where a lot of the issues are. We are seeking enemies where there are none. And then we end up creating them by how we treat and respond to
Mm-hmm.
different ways of thinking. We can have civil conversations and not agree. We
Mm-hmm.
can have different viewpoints and choose a different conclusion at the end of it. And a lot of that stems from traumas that we have that are unaddressed. At the beginning of the year, even though I had been working with trauma and I had had a lot of coaching clients who had experienced trauma and we had talked through that,
Mm-hmm.
um, I decided to get my certification in trauma informed coaching. And that just, it opened my eyes. There's so many situations now that when I'm either coaching someone or just living life and communicating through organic circumstances, I see how we have gotten to where we're at. And a lot of our divisiveness, it has been psychologically programmed into us. And then we have traumatic events that have helped reinforce that. So, real quick history lesson, and I'm going to go through this in 1 minute. So, if you're
Okay.
not paying attention, you're going to miss it. Back in the 1620s, when the country was first being formed,
Mm-hmm.
at that time, it was kind of like Washington D.C., Jamestown, Virginia. That's where the country had its foothold and was expanding out enslavement and colonization. Well,
Okay.
there was a fringe town that was being lived in or oversaw by Nathaniel Bacon. Nathaniel Bacon was cousin to William Berkeley, who at the time, for all intents and purposes, was like the president of the new country. William Berkeley, he was asked by his cousin Nathaniel, "Hey, can you get some extra troops out here? Because I don't know, it's like." I don't know, maybe they lived here for centuries and now we're in their territory and the indigenous people are attacking us. So, can you get us some extra troops so that we can defend the land that we stole? And William Berkeley was like, nah. So then Nathaniel Bacon, he talks to his enslaved and indentured servants and was like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, you all help me. We're going to overthrow the government and I'll give you your freedom. So they come really close to that. They burn down Jamestown. They burn it to the ground.
Okay.
And that sent such a shiver down the spine of the people who wanted to keep the power in high places that they started instituting things to separate the indentured from the enslaved to the point where they made people that used to be indentured overseers over the enslaved. And so
Okay.
they started creating that separation. That is why in our culture to this day, when you look at rural America and you look at people who have been at or below the poverty level,
Mm-hmm.
among Caucasians, there is both, in some cases, valid, in other cases, stereotypic associations with racism when it comes to people who have rural backgrounds. A lot of us will assume that someone is racist because they have a country accent. They will make these assumptions. So all of this division, it exists on purpose. And so getting back to today,
Mm-hmm.
where we're at and how we associate and the trauma that has been visited, and collective trauma is a very real thing. We're overcoming a lot of hurdles that have been put into our way from becoming unified. But the powers that want to divide, they don't want to see the unification because there's power in unity.
Yes.
It's hard to stop a unified movement. And there was a study that showed when 3% of any culture, province, county, state, when 3% becomes convicted and decides to believe and go after a new belief,
Mm-hmm.
the rest will fall in line. If it is something that is good and serves the common good for many, it's just getting to that point.
And I I can tie a point a little bit back to what you said about tied to tragedy. I also think um, people learn, kids learn by example, right? Like that's what popped in my head was like my youngest when she was little would repeat things that I would say that some were funny, some not so proper, right? But I think part of it is learned, and we've lost that civility, the ability to have a civil conversation or a civil debate without, you're under the side, I don't like you, we're enemies, and this and that, and you get this rhetoric of like, oh, there's going to be a civil war and you're going to get it, and like we've lost that civility, and that is something that is difficult. Like I think that's something I want to work on, and not be so quick to put up my defenses when trying to talk to someone who might want to support the other candidate, another candidate than mine, or take a stance on an issue that I don't agree with. Um, it's difficult.
Oh, yeah, it can definitely represent a challenge, especially when true change occurs within.
Hmm.
Um, when you have a conversation, it is just an opportunity to see a different viewpoint, to see a
Yes.
different way of looking at things. But because of, programming to where we lose our own identity to
Hmm.
think independently and to receive information and then make of it what we will, we have a lot of folks that just choose to be closed off and they don't want to. I mean, maybe there was a time when they were younger and they were open to it, or they were playing with these kids and their parent told them not to, and they didn't understand why.
Mm,
They said, "Don't worry about it. We just don't play with those types of kids." I don't know what the individual source is,
right.
but I know what the solution is, and that's why meeting people where they're at, and whenever you have the opportunity to have that civil conversation or to attempt to have it, it's on us who see the benefit in unity rather
Mm-hmm.
than the benefits of divisiveness to try and go there. And I will
Yeah.
always try to go there as long as others are willing. But I
Yeah.
will never try to force my viewpoint onto someone else. And I refuse to let someone else do the same to me.
Yeah. And that leads to the second part of the question. Like, with this person says, with conservatives being so outspoken and vocal, and trying to put their beliefs onto us, if a company brings you in for an event or a program or a group, how would you address that if someone becomes overly vocal or argumentative, and tries to push the issue? How would you handle that? I guess their escalation. How would you de-escalate it? How would you face that, I guess?
Well, you're talking to someone who has a history to where there were some environments where I trained in where there were fights, where I had a knife pulled on me. Um, I have had someone pull a gun on me before. So when I'm in a room and someone has a really strong opinion and the most
Hmm.
dangerous thing in there is words, I can handle it. Um, I
Okay.
think for me is just remembering the purpose. Like, remember why you showed up to the party, because
Okay.
believe it or not, and some people might even be shocked by this, but as many times as I've been in the public limelight, or I've been on a stage or in front of people and they see my demeanor, I'm very HR safe and HR friendly because I know what it means to be responsible for policies, procedures, things of that nature. I just think to myself, I am here to help people.
Okay.
And that's why I came to the party. And so if that's why I'm here and someone feels some kind of way, my goal is to be a thermostat and not a thermometer. There's a higher calling when you are trying to make change. There's
Hmm.
more expected of you. And so I gave up the privilege of, for lack of a, forgive my language, I gave up the privilege of showing my ass. Okay. I gave that up a long time ago. I don't get to do that.
Yeah.
And so when someone is trying to escalate because they're heated, they're hot, they're not communicating, they're venting, they have
Hmm.
this pressure. They might have been in some circles where they think I've always got to walk on eggshells, or they're in a circumstance where they can't speak their mind, or the majority of the people they're around all the time don't see the world the way they do. So now they're here and someone has opened the door to say, "How do you feel? How do you see that?" And then they're like, blah, it's just all just there you go. It's my job to recognize the heat
Okay.
and to go, I'm not a thermometer. I do not let you I do not let you increase or decrease how I'm feeling. My job is to turn it down. And so every class, every workshop I start off,
Yeah.
I set the tone and then I maintain the tone and I maintain it throughout.
Okay.
Um, I mean, that's just what you have to do. It's a requirement. But there are lots of phrases, words, and things that you can do and say and interject so that when you start seeing it get there, you nip it in the bud. You don't let it escalate. You don't turn a blind eye. I've been putting out some posts about communication recently, and one of the things that came up was tactical. Um, I'm sorry. Tactical confrontation equals intact organizations. There will be conflict in a training class, in an organization, at an
Hmm.
executive roundtable, at a community discussion. There will be conflict. And it is our lack of ability to communicate through those situations to let our minds and emotions come in sync instead of letting our emotions be the driver of what we say and how we respond. And so, in all of those situations, being able to create an environment, by the way, human beings are the most important environment. It doesn't matter the chairs, the roof, the temperature, the carpet, hardwood floors. Human beings are the most important environment. And if you keep this right and keep this right, then you can connect with others, you can set them at ease. And
Okay.
if they are in a mental place to where you cannot set them at ease at
Hmm.
all,
Hmm.
then you have to maintain the environment for everyone else, and you have to remember where the exits are
Okay.
and help them find them.
I like that. I like that. Guys, we're on with Marshall today. Marshall Fields, he runs pchatp. You guys can check out his website. He's doing a fundraiser here coming up. We're going to have a donation link. We're going to kind of plug that through the month of August if you guys want to check that out. Um, this is Marshall. I'm having fun. I hope you are too. I want to ask a
Oh, yeah,
couple
I enjoy it.
off the wall questions, maybe a little lighter, maybe if that's okay.
Bring it on.
Change gears. Favorite type of food? Like what? Like Spanish, Japanese, Italian. What do you like? What is your favorite absolute cuisine to go for?
I would say it's 1,000% ramen, and
Ah, okay,
I make a ton of different kinds.
okay,
Organic noodles. I do put a Kentucky spin on it with applewood smoked bacon instead of the traditional tonkatsu
okay.
or pork cutlets.
Nice. I love it. What's your least favorite?
A least favorite food. That would be okra.
Okay.
Because I feel like someone took fruit and mixed it with snot and yeah, okra. I think okra is gross. I have a lot of people who I know that love it, and I will take it if it's been fried to where all health value has
Yes.
been diminished and it's dry. But yeah, okra, I think it is evil to me.
I I'm gonna rank chia seeds when you use them to make like a pudding because they get like goopy, and it's the similar kind of like I can't. I rank it
No,
up there, but I will eat okra again, like you said, if it's fried to death. If they've killed it, double fried it,
yeah.
pound of
It's
butter,
basically
perfect.
breading.
Yeah, yeah, breading and butter, that'll help. Um, we found a sushi place we're gonna try here. They actually they give you a pizza box. You can go eat it there or get delivery or carry out, and it's a literal like large pizza box. You open it and it's just
Um,
sushi. I'm like, we're gonna go check that place out because
Yum.
that just sounds fun. Um,
It sounds like something you should do.
I think we're gonna have to share it, and I'm sure Chad will want us to kind of take video, and I'll take the GoPro, and yeah. Speaking of like cuisines and this kind of leads me into like traveling. What is the best vacation if you've traveled the farthest, or what is the best destination you've gone to in your travels that you've experienced? And then I have another part we'll get to in a second. But so far, the best place you've ever been and why?
Man, Gosh, the best place, man. That's hard.
Okay.
I'll have to put it in context of peace and tranquility.
Okay.
That would be Phoenix, Arizona. Is probably the best. I
Okay.
got more meditating and just communing with the spirit done in that place than I think I have any other. And
Okay.
there was just a peace about it. If we're talking about like a complete reset, like
Hmm.
beyond meditation, like a complete reset to zero, the
Hmm.
best place, hands down, is Ely, Minnesota, in the Boundary Water canoe area in
Okay.
that location. Yeah, very remote. First time I was in a camp and there was a wolf that was like kind of calling in the pack to do some hunting for me and the other campers. So,
My
yeah,
goodness.
that was an
Okay.
experience too, but for totally different reasons.
Yeah, I can imagine. Uh, oh my gosh. Kelly would love the Phoenix answer because she spent a lot of time there, went to school at U of A, and her parents, they still they're still snowbirding it right now. They're going to be eventually coming here to a retirement village, and selling they sold their house. They're in an apartment now, so they go for like the really. I mean, Chicago winter is ridiculous, so I don't blame them
Oh yeah,
because it's horrible. But
they don't call it the Windy City for nothing.
fun fact. Do you know why they call it the Windy City?
Is this windy?
No, it's because of the windbag politicians from way back from the Columbia Exposition, way back in like
Shh.
1901. Um,
Well, there you go. I
yeah,
think we all just learned something today.
a little bit, a little bit. All right, what's your dream vacation? Where's the one place you want to go? Like what's in your bucket list?
There are a few different places that have this,
Okay,
but bioluminescent algae,
okay,
to be on a beach that is full of that and to
okay.
walk and to see how the light
Mm,
disperses from human contact or just any contact where the water is rippling. Even if you dropped a rock in, it would glow.
yeah,
I just think that would be a really cool experience.
that would be
Warm
cool.
summer breeze.
Yeah, that would be neat. I Kelly's traveled more than I, but she went to a wedding in Puerto Rico and there was they had to like row out to a spot and they got to swim in and it was like she's like it was just so crazy like cool. I'm like that sounds cool. Like hearing her just talk about it. I'm like when you said it I was like oh it like took my breath away. I was like that would be neat. Like that would be
Yeah,
really
I
cool.
mean, there's only one fear that I have when it comes to being out in nature, and it's not bears, it's not tigers, it's being in water. Where I'm a
Yes.
cheeseburger potentially to a large animal, I do have a fear of sharks. So, I'm going to try to pair the bioluminescent with being around sharks. If I can put those two things, and I don't mean nurse sharks,
Right.
but if not nurse or whale sharks, but actual sharks, if I can get there, I think I'll come full circle on a lot.
I think I've told you the story. Like, we took the kids back in 2016 to their parents rented a house for their 50th anniversary in Hilton Head. So on the ocean. It was the kids' first trip to the ocean. Kelly wanted to show the kids Jaws before we went. And I'm like, do, do we want them to get in the water? Like,
I want to show a bunch of accidents on roller coasters, and then let's go to Kings Island.
yeah, let's go do that. I also like, I went to Hawaii once, and the flight crew was like, let's play when we're halfway there from San Francisco. And I was like, no, no, I am not doing that. And the person was with, what's wrong? Why? I was like, because that's the point of no return. That means if we crash, that's water. Like we're over land, there's other, you can try to hit a cornfield or slide down a mountain. We're over water, it's sharks. And we're all going to be food. So, no, I am not playing that. So,
Yeah.
I can't do. I'm same with sharks. I'm like, nope. Mm-mm.
Yeah, no, it's a very real fear, and it's founded in fact. It's not irrational to be afraid of a shark attack.
No, no. I'm with you.
Cool.
All right. If you could hang out with one Sesame Street character, I will even say, or one Muppet, who would it be and why?
Well, mm, gosh, if
Hmm.
uh, there was like an intellectual connection between um, the actual Muppet and the puppeteer, it would probably be Elmo
Okay.
because sounds even silly to say, but I remember like my kids watching Elmo. I bought them Elmo toys,
Hmm.
and then much like many of our childhood heroes, things come out that are negative, and so it conflicts with that positive memory.
Hmm.
And I would love to talk with Elmo if there was like an intellectual connection because I think all of us have had experiences in our lives that
Hmm.
have left us going, what the hell, or why the hell? So, a conversation with Elmo, someone who's touched so many lives, but then on the same note, there's this dark side. I think it'd
Mm.
be interesting.
Mm. That would be. I didn't think you were. That's an interesting take, and I like that. I like that. I appreciate that. Someone,
Yeah.
Norgie, one of my viewers, said he would like to hang out with Statler and Waldorf. I'm like, well, I'm one of them, so.
Was that the two guys that were in the
Yep, the old guys.
balcony?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh gosh, that would probably be my second for sure.
That would be fun. It just reminds me of Walter Matthau and is it Jack
Odd
Lemmon?
couple.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Grumpy old men.
Yep,
Yeah, that's that's funny.
that's hilarious.
Oh man. Let's see. We're kind of through. Whoa, we got through. All right. Before we start with the cool down, do you have a funny work story? It could be at our company or anywhere. Something that's safe, HR related. You don't have to out any names. You can change names. You got a funny work story you want to share?
It's, it's kind of funny and it's funny and tied to self-actualization.
Okay.
So I was working at this company called at the time Credible Wireless. Now, Credible Wireless no longer exists.
Okay.
Um, I think it's called Qualifax or something like that. Anyway, it's behavioral healthcare software, and I was a learning architect, but
Okay.
a lot of the facilitators had been let go. And so, since I had a background in facilitation as well as instructional design, I kind of picked up the mantle and I was doing some training. So, I am going to these facilities. Now, I have a lot of certifications, but my college degree, like what I
Hmm.
got out of college with, was electronic engineering. And so, when I would go to a few of these places, I remember distinctly this. This palpable ego as I'm walking in the door. And I even had, and I always suspected this, but I actually had one of the psychologists because I primarily met with clinical physicians, psychologists, psychiatrists, peer support groups, things of that nature. We're talking
Hmm.
about DSM-4, DSM-5, people that are in that business, they know what that means. I don't want to get into all of it, but we would go through certain things within the software, everything from bite warnings to trigger warnings to medications, scheduling, bed assignment, like all these different things. Anyway,
Hmm.
I'm there, and on more than one occasion, I felt the ego. And this one particular event, this psychologist pulled me aside and said, "Hey, man, I don't know why are you here? Why are you training this class?" He said, I looked you up on LinkedIn. You know,
Hmm.
I'm and it was at that moment when, and I'll be honest, I was already I was intimidated somewhat because when you're going in the room and you're the only one without a PhD, it's kind of like, huh, okay, cool. I'm going to teach them. That's great. But then I realized, remember why I'm there. And I remembered what I knew and the training that I had developed and what I understood. And the fact that I had family members who had suffered because of neglect of their mental illness.
Hmm.
And that these people, the more they understand the software, the more they can focus on the reason they're there, which is for caring for other people. Don't let the software get in the way.
Yeah.
And so when I remember that, I looked them right in the eye and I said, we're going to go through this first day of training because it was a 2-day training.
Yeah.
And I said, If by the end of the first day you don't feel like I should be here, then you let me know, because my company has made a significant investment for me to be flown out here, to come here, to stay in a hotel, pay for my gas, pay for my car, and I'm here now. So
Mhm.
just give me the chance and we'll see. And at the end of the session, he walked up, shook my hand, apologized, and we didn't have any problems since then. So
That's awesome.
that was kind of one of those funny moments. It was like in the Black Panther, where T'Challa is starting to lose in the fight with Umbago,
Hmm.
and his mother yells out, "Remember," no, she said, "Show them who you are."
Yeah.
Show them who you are. And it's like, you got to remember who you are. No matter where you find yourself, you're there for a reason. You
Yeah.
have something to bring to the situation. If you can summon the courage to be yourself and to show up authentically, you have a cure for what is someone else's illness. But we only find that through courage and connection and communication.
I love that. That actually, you just answered the other question and giving some advice, talking about advice. That I love that. That's a, and I love the Black Panther reference as well. That's look at that tying into to comics. I love it. Well, movies, but comic book movies. Um, well, I wanna be respectful of your time. I wanna kind of wind down a little bit. So we do the cool down where we kind of give you. I don't know if you've watched like Hot Ones. I'm not gonna make you eat anything spicy and do this part, but like at the end of Hot Ones, he gives the guests time to kind of talk about what they've got going on, and I just want to give you the floor to talk about talk about the fundraiser, whatever you want to talk about, and give just let you just kind of go. And just I want to say thank you again though for being on. Thanks to the folks that are watching live. We'll have this up on Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube here next week, and I'll get all the links from Marshall and stuff. But share where people can find you. Let them know what you got going on, and
Sweet.
how we can
Yeah.
help and
Thanks for
stuff.
the
So
opportunity.
yeah,
Yeah. I appreciate it. Yeah. I'm here for this. So, um, gosh, there's a lot going on. I would say the main thing that I would want to share is there will be a fundraiser going on that's being put on by the Lexington Black Philanthropy Week. And what that is a time when you'll be able to go to Lex um, uh, bps.org, and you'll be able to make a donation. And I would just ask that anyone who is able to, who can, please contribute. If you want to help empower a world where we are able to recognize our full potential as individuals, where we are able to associate on a different level, you want to help support Freedom Bridges, and it's lexbpw.org is where you'll be able to go on August 19th. And it's August 19th through the 23rd. They've got some matching gifts and some funds. But I recommend that you go to pchatp.com. That's pchatp.com, and you can learn about some of the workshops that we have, some of the different programs. And there's also a link to the podcast that I do. And granted, I haven't put out an episode in a while because I've been working on other projects, but there's still a lot of good content out there to be seen. And feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, on Facebook. You can find me. And I look forward to making a better world by changing how we talk to it. We can change the world by changing how we talk to it. I believe that, and that's what I'm here for.
I love it. I will find. I'll get all your links and I'll post them with the episode, and we'll share them with chat. Marshall, I want to thank you again for hanging out. This has been lovely.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Everyone,
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dan.
yeah. Anytime you want to come on and do a podcast episode, let me know, and we'll come up. We can just we'll wing it, or we just hang out. Like this has been very. I feel like I'm learning. I feel like I come away with learning at least one thing after I talk to you every time I talk. So this is now twice this week we've talked, and I've learned twice as much, and I'm happy. Um,
My pleasure.
Everyone, for Marshall and for me, this has been the runaround. And well, we just gave you the runaround. I'm still working on a tagline. I still got to work on that. Like, we just gave you the runaround. I'll edit it in post and I'll just dub over. Kind of, it'll be like when they used to play like movies on TV on like broadcast, and they take out like the swear words and like this is a piece of tin. Like Like, well, it's fine. I'll fix it in post. Um, so, guys, we're gonna wrap up the podcast. I will be firing up stream here. I'm gonna reboot the computer, turn all the noises and stuff so you can scare me and stuff, and I'm gonna cook dinner for the family. But we're gonna sign off. Thank you, Marshall. Thank you again, everyone. Love your faces, and we'll see you again soon on the runaround.
Peace.